Welcome again. What you are watching right now is the very first of my tutorial video series with a very self-descriptive name of Play-a-Beatle. I hope you like that name. A quick overview of the video is in order, so let me tell you how it goes down. I am talking about Penny Lane, the Beatles song from the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club album, and how to play that on piano. So first I will get into the more basic stuff like the song's harmony and structure, and then I will talk about the intricacies like the piccolo trumpet solo, and also how to play that on piano. I hope you learn something from it, as my work is mainly about making things work on the piano with the piano playstyle instead of making a complete recreation of the original recording. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope to get some feedback on the very first tutorial video that I've ever made in my life. I'm actually really anxious to get some feedback from you, so don't be a stranger and enjoy, and see you soon. Penny Lane is a piece by the Beatles featured on the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. The song revolves around B major key and has some nice walking bounce in the bass part, so you'll want to pay attention mainly to the left hand, while the right is pretty stationary, retaining the concurrent chords as the song goes. This will be the main function of the right hand. I'm going to begin the tutorial with the verse. As you can tell, the song has no intro whatsoever, so give yourself a key. So, we're in B major. You'll want to play it before playing the actual song. In Penny Lane. So there you go. Let me play the verse as it goes in my version. In Penny Lane there is a barber showing photographs of every head they said the pleasure to have known, and all the people that come and go stop and say hello. So these were the first 8 bars of the song, as it is in my arrangement. This also happens to be the entirety of the verse version A. I'm about to show you how to play it in smaller sections of 2 bars at once. We'll begin with the left hand. The song begins with the B major, so it's the key chord, and here's the left hand notes. There are several ways to play the bass based on the skill involved. Here's my version. With the pinky finger doing all the bounce, while the thumb goes at the beat. And the black keys are played by the 4th finger, or the ring finger. That's the classical way to do it, and it's pretty comfy. But if it's not comfy for you, you could just go for the basic bass line with the bounce. Okay, so that was just a side note about the execution of the bass. Now let's get in detail into the first 2 bars and go from there. I'll go a little bit slower. I recommend the fingering of the bass that you just saw. And if you feel up to it, you can add the bounce to the left hand as shown earlier. Now for the next 2 bars after these. So they begin the same as the first 2. So together. So these were the first 4 bars of the song. Now I will replay the 3rd and 4th bar for you again. So the third bar is exactly the same as the first bar, and in the fourth bar you just play B 4 times. And the right hand is just repeating chords on every beat. We start off in B major, so these are the keys B, D sharp, F sharp. And the chord just goes 4 times in the first bar with the notes of the left hand, with the next bar being. And that's how the first 2 bars are played in the right hand. The chords basically change every bar. In the second bar, the D sharp from the initial B major slides onto E, like this. So it's pretty close, leaving the other notes in place. And on the fourth beat, the thumb goes from B to A sharp. Just on the fourth beat, the thumb changes keys. On the fourth beat. As you can see, the E occurs both in right and left hand at the same time. So that's how it sounds together. So you don't really have to move your right hand from place, it's pretty stationary. Now let's take a look at the next 2 bars. They start off the same, but in the fourth bar you go from B major to B minor. The transition is simply D sharp to D. So we've got 4 bars of the both hands. Let me play it again. Now let me remind you of the right hand part. That about covers the first half of the verse. Now I'm going to talk about the remaining 4 bars. Here the left hand sees more action than the right, but still changes notes only once per bar, and the right hand maintains its function by repeating chords. Let me play the left hand. Starts with G sharp and goes down to F sharp. So these were the last 4 bars. Now let me show you the transition from the first half. And now to the G sharp in the left hand, while the right hand just plays the same 3 notes. Not the right hand staying in place, and the left hand going down. Does this sound familiar? Is the same set of chords that occurred in the second bar, it just got reused here. Now let's get to the details. As you might have noticed, the left hand starts off on G sharp and goes down. And the last 2 bars aren't really that creative, with the right hand going like this. Again, that's the same chord as in the second bar. And it goes nicely with the F sharp in left hand. So that will be everything you need to know about the first verse. Now let me replay the last 4 bars for reference. So now you should be able to sound like this. that's the first verse. There are two versions of the verse in Penny Lane. The one you've just learned would be version A. Version B occurs as soon as the second verse, immediately after the first. The only difference between the two, however, is just the last bar. That was the ending of version B. As you see, the only difference between the two versions is just the last bar, while the rest of the verse remains perfectly the same. This kind of pairing versions occurs throughout the entire song. That means that every time there is a version A, version B would be played immediately after that. Now let's take a look at the chorus. It appears right after verse B every time, inevitably, with no intersection. Remember the chord succession. The last bar of the verse is E major. The essential notes for that chord are E, G sharp and B. Note that the last beat is a rest. It's pretty important. E major typically resolves in A major, and that's the first chord of the chorus. These are the first 4 bars of the chorus, starting off from A major. The left hand also starts with the A key, and from there it leads the melodic bass line, rhythmically on par with the right hand in the first 2 bars. As usual, we'll start with establishing the left hand part. The full-fledged bouncy version, as in my arrangement, goes like this. And so on. You can note that the next 2 bars are a D major, but first things first, we'll be getting there in baby steps. And the bass line would be like that. Or you can play it in an even simpler way. As you can see, the bass part is mostly a straight one, since even with the bounce added, it bounces on straight beats. And that's pretty important since the right hand goes. Let's cover the right hand first. It goes from A major and stays there with the left hand going. From the bottom it is C sharp, E and A. That's the most efficient way to play the first 2 bars of the chorus, and now the brass intersection. The brass intersection needs to be played between the beats in a bouncy fashion. Let's take a closer look. That's the 2-part version of it. It goes like this for the right hand. And with the count it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the lower, least audible part. And the higher part. Here's how it sounds with the high part only. And with the basic bass line. Or with the bass line with a 5th. So you can see that structurally the chorus works the same as the verse, comprising of 2 parts starting the same. But let's talk about the brass intersection. Here are the notes. So that was the sequence of the notes. Now let me play it with the bass. But of course you'll be performing the bass with the bounce. That of course is an issue of preference and skill, but the bounce helps with keeping up with the rhythm in the right hand. So with the bounce in the left hand you actually see where and when to hit the right hand. You could try to simplify it. I'm having a hard time, as you can see, imagining any kind of a simpler version, so it's up to you to practice the rhythm in the right hand. So yeah, that would be the best way to do it. Now again with the chorus. Just a reminder of the notes. So that was the first half of the chorus, the first 4 bars, and the next 4 bars start off just the same as the first 4 bars with the A major. So the song is pretty consistent structure-wise. So you can see how it starts off the same. And we have a D major, a plain D major instead of the brass intersection. That is otherwise based on the D major anyway. The D, F sharp and A that resolve immediately onto the F sharp major. And let's note that the 4th beat of the 8th measure is a rest, just the same as in the verse. And let's keep the 4th beat silent, because silence is pretty important to music in general, just as well as the sounds. Penny Lane is in my ear and in my eye. There beneath the blue suburban skies, I see them meanwhile back. We now have the essence of the song's structure covered. It's verse A, verse B, and chorus. What is yet to be talked about, however, is the piccolo trumpet solo, transcribed into a piano part. This occurs after the first section of the song, namely verse A, verse B, chorus, and again a verse A. The solo itself is built on the harmonic structure of verse B, so the song's structure remains unchanged, since it comes right after verse A the same way it did the first time around, so you have the same left hand part. By now you might have heard that part before, right? So there you have it, it's the verse B come again as far as the left hand is concerned. That means it's a good idea to master the left hand part first, and only then giving the solo a shot. That way a smooth execution of the bass gives you a good bass to work on. The rhythm might be a little bit confusing, so I propose a slightly simplified version of the solo. 1 bar at a time. And even if you feel up to mimicking the trumpet player's whimsical notes, it's a good idea to learn what the notes actually are just the same. Played in straight triplets. And it's a accompanied by the descent of the left hand that you know from the verse. Now to the next bar, so you better pay attention. Now the two bars together. And the fast version. And master it through repetition. Now again I recommend my fingering because it allows for the hand to be as stationary as possible. And just a tip, you'll want to stroke the keys instead of hitting them. So this is easily repeated. So these are the first two bars of the solo. At this point, the same way as in the verse, in the fifth bar, left hand repeats its descent from B. Some grace notes here. And for a more simple version, it's up to you which way you pick. When looking at the keys, this sequence is made from two smaller sequences similar to each other. So you can see how the bass remains unchanged, but the trumpet messes things up a little. And now we have the disintegrated D major in right hand with B in the left hand. In the verse it used to be B minor, but it's gone. The resulting chord is called D6. But it's most likely B minor 7 with two reasons supporting it. Firstly, it used to be a sort of B minor earlier, so there's no reason to change the chords now. Secondly, the trumpet just played a high A note, which is a 7th degree in the B minor natural scale. Let's see how it plays together now. Again from the third bar on. Now the right hand lands on D, now carrying on. You know the left hand sequence from the verse. Here it's mostly D's in the right. You can shake it up a little bit. Or play straight triplets as before. It doesn't immediately start off the beat. So you want to be careful about when you start this little sequence here, or change it. I like how defiant it sounds, so you may use it as well. So we're back in the E major that will lead us into the A major of the chorus. Again from the fifth bar on. So see how it ends on the E major, just the same as the version B of the verse. And in exactly the same way as before, the chorus pops in immediately after the E major, so don't stay there too long and remember to produce a rest on the 4th beat. After the trumpet solo and the chorus, we get to play verses A and B yet again, then a chorus afterwards. But at the end the chorus is played twice and there's a change in key involved the second time around. So there you have it, we've just gone from A major to B major. So the final chorus is set in a key higher by a tone. But aside from that, the harmony stays mostly the same apart from the very ending. Yes, you guessed it, we have more of trumpet antics in the coda. We already know the harmonic structure of the chorus, so it shouldn't be a problem to reenact it here. Note how the last 4 bars are harmonically the same as the first 4. These are the first 4 bars and they get repeated in entirety toward the end. You might have guessed that these were the next 4 bars and the ending B major chord, hence the final chorus may be also identified as the outro. It comprises of a standard 8-bar section plus 1 extra measure for the root key chord, complementing the song's harmonic overview. This was the version with just the sheer harmony, no solos. Now with solos included, but this requires some skill and swiftness. As always, there is more than one way of playing this, and I'm showing some now in case you're interested. Hold this chord for 2 bars. You can broaden your sound by playing additional notes. Of course, as long as they stay within the chord. Or not. Make sure your left hand helps by upholding the chord. Now, this one last brass section is actually a must play. That's because it concludes the song quite brilliantly, so it's worthy of learning. I think it's simple enough for anybody, and if for some reason it's not, it's safe to leave it out and play just the harmony instead. So here's the final chorus. basically that's the entire song. Now just for the peace of mind, I'll be showing how the particular parts play out, starting as usual with the left hand part, so feel free to keep watching also if you want to learn the final trumpet. So left hand. And here the song ends. Now with the right hand solo. It's a good idea to slow down a little near the end. So let's take a look at the trumpet solo here. I think the best way to play it would be to imitate the trumpet, unless you have a better idea, of course. In such case, I have nothing against. Now take a close look. With bass on every beat. Again, slowly. Easy, huh? There's really not much else happening in here, so you're welcome to practice. And now for the final sequence. Let's break it down. And you're done. Thanks for watching and I hope it helps. Please feel free to rate and comment. And if you want to support my work for more of such videos, see the description. I'd gladly accept requests. So thank you again and see you soon.